The Morning Conversation is a series designed to take larger-than-life figures and bring them down to earth, humanize and sit down with people that we only see standing behind podiums, and address important topics in real time and have some fun as well.
The reason I wanted to come and talk to you.
Touchdown FSU, touchdown Florida State.
What's it going to take for you to sing a couple of bars of the last song you heard?
Okay, God has smiled on me. I had a heart.
Piece of toast, an egg on top, then green peas. And that was the pregame meal. Then later on, it became pizza. Then later on, it became steak. But you know, it's hard to go out and play a ball game with a full steak in your belly.
You'll be serving as sheriff for a second term, and there was probably no group of people faster to congratulate you than the people that you work with. This is a personalized New York Jets jersey to Sheriff Walt McNeil. I got to ask you, how cool was this of your people to do? And I also have to ask, where does your love of the New York Jets come from?
Well, from Joe Willie Namath, quite honestly.
Do you feel like some of these ads have gone a little too far?
Yes.
Are you concerned at all about voter fraud in the 2020 election? First and foremost, I want to ask you how you and your family have been doing throughout this pandemic.
Yeah, great question. Our family's doing pretty well.
Always like to have fun here because we're sitting here for like 2.5 hours, so we have to have a little bit of fun and laugh at ourselves. We have our question of the day in honor of Chocolate Chip Cookie Day being yesterday. Mayor Daley, we got to bring you in on this one. If you could only have one type of cookie for the rest of your life, what would it be?
Snickerdoodle. Hands down, no questions asked.
If the morning conversation is supposed to be about the leading voices in our community, there is no voice more resounding and no spirit more powerful than Bobby Bowden. I sat down with the two-time national champion and 12-time ACC champion as the Seminoles and their faithful prepare to converge once again on the house that Bobby built. I'm wondering if you were a head coach right now, and you'll always be the head coach to this community, how would you navigate your team and lead men to get through this period of time? What methods would you use?
I'd resign.
You think that they should go through with this season and start the season as they have, or do you think that they should postpone football this fall?
No, I think they ought to try to do it if they can.
What's different about this day and age is that players, from the time that you coached at FSU, is that players have social media that they can get on and comment on anything that happens at the touch of a button. I'm wondering, what are your thoughts about the voice that players have now and the action that's being taken place?
That is a good question, buddy. You know what? Because, see, coaching, when I first started coaching 65 years ago, if I told the kids to run through that wall, he better not say a word, just go hit it. And they would do it.
You've also been one of the best at, when there is a loss or a tough defeat, picking those people back up, picking your guys back up and making them run through that brick wall again, making them recover and come back 10 times stronger. It's something that the country, the United States, and especially people here in the Southeast, are dealing with right now. If you could provide in words some kind of inspiration to them in this time of need, what would you say to them?
All right, what you just described, that's life today. I don't care what profession you're in or what you do, you're going to get knocked down. And that's one thing football teaches, you know. You get knocked down, get up. People have a problem, and they think they're the only ones that got a problem. You know, I really got a problem. I feel so sorry for me. Everybody has some kind of problem that other people don't know about, you know what? And to be a success is the guy that can fight through the problem, which most people can. Strong people can, you know what? And only the weak cannot, you know. But problems, hey, get used to it, baby. It's a way of life.
Who would have thought that the eyes of the nation in the 2020 election would be fixated on Georgia, not just in the presidential election, separated by just 11,800 votes in the Peach State, and two subsequent recounts, one of which was the largest hand recount of all time, and the other one which wasn't certified until yesterday. But also two highly contested, down-to-the-wire runoff elections that will decide the United States Senate. My goal was, and still is, by the way, to interview all four of the candidates from those races before the January 5th runoff, which is why I reached out to Senator David Perdue's campaign 4 separate times in an attempt for an interview. Twice in November, on the 10th and 13th, when I was told he could not conduct an interview at the time, and then twice in December on the 2nd and a couple of days ago on the 4th. Perdue's opponent, Jon Ossoff, said yes to an interview. So I talked to him in the latest Morning Conversation. I read that when you were in high school, You had the chance to intern with the late Congressman John Lewis. I was wondering, what about him impacted you the most?
Congressman Lewis had this clear moral compass, which I think at moments of political division and when there's a sense of confusion about where we're headed as a people is so desperately needed.
Your opponent, Senator David Perdue, said that if you win this race, and hypothetically if Democrats took control of the Senate, and this is a list here, illegal immigrants will be voting, police will be defunded. How do you respond to some of these allegations that you hear on these ads?
Those are all lies. And honestly, I don't let it bother me.
Since the last debate that you and Senator Perdue had on October 28th, your opponent has opted not to debate you at all leading up to the January 5th runoff. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, I think it's cowardly of Senator Perdue to refuse to debate his opponent. If he didn't want to answer questions in public and debate his opponent, that's fine. He just shouldn't run for re-election.
What's the key in the runoff specifically?
Well, look, the reason I wanted to come and talk to you, and by the way, I bet you my opponent won't grant you an interview, is that I want to address the people directly. There's so much nonsense in the political ads. I mean, you went through some of it. That's why I'm not taking donations from corporate PAC.
Secretary of State Raffensperger saying in a press conference earlier this week that people who don't even live in the state, former college students, even people that haven't lived in Georgia since 1994 are attempting to vote in this race in some form, this runoff. What are your thoughts on this whole third-party investigation?
I saw there was that video of, I think it was the Republican official in Florida trying to urge people to come and move to Georgia to vote here, and we just can't have that. This election will be decided by Georgians, and this election is about the future of Georgia.
It was not a Republican official who encouraged Floridians to move to Georgia. As Ossoff just mentioned, it was Florida Attorney Bill Price. David Perdue's campaign maintains that the senator has been exonerated of any financial misconduct, and I am still open and available to interview Senator David Perdue at any time. My email is public, and it's in the same place as his full interview, our website, WCTV.tv. You've seen the campaign ads. You know their faces, you know their voices. But do you know who Marva Preston and Loran Osley truly are and what they actually bring to the table as candidates for the 3rd District seat in the Florida Senate? I set out to find that answer, and what I found are two candidates passionate for public service, politics, and people. I want to get to know you a little bit better. How would you describe your early life, and where does your passion for politics stem from?
My early life has always been a life of faith. The biggest part of our life was serving the Lord.
How have the lessons that you've learned in your career in law enforcement, how have they helped you in other facets of your life?
When I would stop somebody for a traffic violation, I would say you could either get the citation or the sermon, and meaning I'd rather educate people than necessarily enforce.
Point blank, what makes you suited to represent the 3rd District in the state of Florida?
I have dedicated my life to being that person that listened to people if they had problems.
What are your thoughts on where these campaign ads stand right now and the nature of them as well?
I have not seen anything that's hostile, and I'm not trying to minimize anything, but you've never heard a word uttered out of my mouth that has been a negative.
I want to get to know Loran Osley. How would you describe your early life and the hobbies that kind of stem from that too?
I'm so lucky to have grown up in this community, and I love Tallahassee, love North Florida.
How do you take those lessons and that work ethic that you kind of get through fitness and apply them to other facets of your life? Do you connect those two dots at all?
Absolutely. It really makes you pick out what is important.
Point blank, what makes you suited to represent the 3rd District in the Florida Senate? Why should people vote for you?
I am first a mom. I have been a legislator for 12 years. I enjoy the opportunity to wake up every day to try to make other people's lives better. I think I'm good at my job.
What are your thoughts on the way that this race has turned and the amount of time and effort spent on these ads?
Instead of talking about what matters on people's minds, which is how are we going to get out of COVID and how are we going to make sure that we can keep our health care and how are we going to protect our public schools, we're going back and forth about things that really I don't think voters care about. This is why people get turned off on politics.
You know, one thing that's been really difficult for me this year specifically is taking a moment, taking a breath, and just appreciating the moment that you're in, which is why I'm so excited to be able to sit down with you and be able to appreciate the moment that we're in right now here at West Scott Fountain. It's such a beautiful campus. I was wondering, out of all the spots on campus, do you have a favorite?
I love this part. I love this part of campus. I walk in here every morning.
You were the Republican Speaker of the House from 1999 to 2000. You served in the legislature for about 14 years. You were involved in a party that has many members that support firearms on campus in some capacity. Yet you've been adamant in your opposition to firearms on campus, whether it's a concealed license or not. Why have you remained so steadfast in your opposition to guns on campus?
I came here not as a Republican legislator. I came here as a person who I believed in Florida State University. So to me, after researching the issue and having some personal experience about it, I might add, before I ever became president, I just don't believe guns make us safer on campus. So it's not a matter of I'm opposed to the Second Amendment, which some people have interpreted, or I've changed my views about that. I simply believe that bringing guns on campus, any more than bringing guns into the legislative process down the street from here, makes us safer. I don't think it does, and therefore I've opposed it.
You've also been at the helm during some great positive moments in Florida State University's history, so I want to play a little bit of word association. I'm going to say a phrase or a word, and I want you to say the first thing that comes to mind. First one, the 2016 Orange Bowl victory against Michigan.
I've got the football in my office. It was a great comeback win for us in the fourth quarter.
FSU softball national championship in 2018.
Lonnie Alameda and her team are fantastic. She's really a rock star.
Catch by Warren for the double play!
Just a solid coach.
How will you handle the post-holiday COVID-19 risk? Are you worried and concerned about students going on winter break all over the place and then coming back to campus?
Absolutely. We're worried about it. So the plan is going to be for those students that are coming back and staying in residence halls on campus, we're going to test them all. We're going to test them before they actually move in.
Florida State will begin its process of finding and hiring the next president of the university, and that when that successor is prepared to take over, you will step down as president. What went into your decision to move on, and how much are you looking forward to the next chapter in your life?
We felt it was good to start the process. It's going to take probably into the spring. I'm willing to stay, obviously, and subject to my board till then, but I think it's the right time. In a couple of days, we're taping of this, I'll be 77 years old. Yeah. I think 6.5 years is probably a good number. In fact, that's about the average number of university presidents in public universities. So I feel like we left it a little bit better, the university, than we found it. And I'll look forward to the next president for taking us even to the next level.
Organizers never applied for a permit to help TPD, in this case, in blocking the roads. It made it tougher for officers to kind of keep protesters safe. Can you explain the difference between, from your side of it,
Sure.
from these protests when there is a permit, when there is more impromptu, and why it's so important to have that permit?
Sure. Everybody has the ability and the right to protest, and we clearly support that. The permitting process allows us to make sure that the protesters and the community stay safe. In the event this weekend, I just want to make sure that we take the opportunity to say what a fabulous job the officers did. As usual, our officers were running into danger when other people were running away. They quickly controlled that situation and made it safe.
All right, so I got something that might be music to your ears. I've heard through the grapevine that you are receiving very strong consideration for the 2021 induction into the Naismith College Basketball Hall of Fame. So much so that one person that I spoke to even told me that it's inevitable that you will be a finalist on that ballot when the list comes out in December. What would go through your heart and your mind if you saw your name on that ballot?
Well, in the first place, in my wildest dreams, I never even had any thought about being inducted to the Hall of Fame, because on my journey, I've always had to take over programs that need to be rebuilt. The rewards that I enjoy as much as anything is when the kids when they call you on Christmas morning, when they send you a Christmas card, when they call you on Father's Day.
You mentioned one of the best parts about your job is getting that phone call on Christmas Day. As much as it breaks my heart to say this, one of those phone calls that you will not be getting anymore is from Michael Ojo. We know the circumstances at this point that led to his extremely untimely passing. How would you describe the moments when you found out that this happened?
Well, every time I think about it, we all feel the same way. Great guy, probably being one of the greatest Seminoles of all time. This sport we're playing is not forever. You can't play basketball forever. You can't play football forever, you know. At some point in life, you have to stop. And what do you do after that, down the road in future? That's when your education comes in. That's when your degree comes in.
120 people have been arrested following the insurrection on the U.S. Capitol on January 6. For many of those apprehended, the prosecution was not instigated by the blood on their hands, but by a breadcrumb trail left on social media. Navigating that trail has become perhaps the most crucial step in the law enforcement process, one that some officials say is more important than the handling of the gun and the badge, including United States Attorney Lawrence Keefe. I sat down with Keefe in the latest Morning Conversation. You mentioned social media. A couple of the arrests that we had seen as a result of what happened on January 6th, some of these people incriminated themselves via pictures that they posted on social media, selfies that they took at the Capitol on that day or elsewhere. What are your thoughts on the role that social media plays right now in that law enforcement? And it's kind of like, it's a very important step of the process.
It's crucial. It is the way that the world communicates, particularly the younger, more highly motivated people that are very focused and have strong, passionate beliefs. When they start crossing that line from holding beliefs and expressing views into planning violent acts, whether it's domestic violent extremists. A lot of people would be surprised to know that there's a greater threat in this country right now from domestic violent extremists than there are from foreign terrorist organizations. And so the way that law enforcement deals with that now are these intelligence analysts, far more important in many instances than the officer with the gun and the badge that goes out there to catch the criminal after the crime. It's the analyst that's reviewing the social media, spotting a trend or a pattern that alerts the investigators. It's not just prosecute, punish after a horrible violent act occurs. It's identify, deter, and disrupt before it occurs without crossing lines and violating constitutional rights of individuals.
We all saw it, an unprecedented insurrection of the United States Capitol. It was an event that stopped time in its tracks, but we saw it from the outside of the building. What was it like for people inside the building, and what does it mean for the future of our nation? Florida Congressman Al Lawson was one of the people inside who went from doing his job to running for his life. Now he's back in Florida for the first time since that siege and voting yes on the impeachment of President Donald Trump. I sat down with Lawson in the latest Morning Conversation. The insurrection that we saw last week at the U.S. Capitol was certainly unprecedented. You were there. You were in voting group 4. I think voting group 1 was, voting at the time that all of this happened. How would you describe that day and into the night for you, from your point of view?
Well, it was almost incomprehensible, because you just couldn't visualize this happening when you came in the morning saying hello to everyone, and all of a sudden you get an announcement that you need to run, you need to get to the tunnels, we're being taken over. You really thought that maybe someone was playing a joke at first. One lady told me, who had just got to Congress, and said, I've been to a campaign and everything. I didn't come up here to get killed, not in the Capitol.
Yeah. You've said that this was orchestrated by President Trump, and in fact, earlier that day on January 6th, just a few hours before, he said in front of all those people,
and if you don't fight like hell, you're not going to have a country anymore.
No one really thought, we have marches all the time in D.C., that they would be coming to take over the Capitol. I mean, that was unheard of, because he said, I'm going to join y'all down there later. But he didn't. He did not come.
Is laid upon the
President Trump this week became the first president to ever be impeached twice. You voted yay for him to be impeached. You've been very vocal about the issue from time to time, but can you just reiterate why you voted yes on that impeachment?
It was the right thing to do because he failed to protect the American Capitol. I mean, it's just unheard of. He wouldn't want to call in reinforcement. To the last minute, we reached out to him and said, you need what these people are doing. People lost their lives, and their blood is on his hands.